like the American flag, and it goes into holidays and things like that. I think it looks really interesting. So it looks like it's almost all online, and then there's a small offline lesson at the end, and it's called Show You Know. And it's like the last activity, and it just kind of, it seems like most of the time it's going to use paper, crayons, colored pencils, things like that. And I think it was like, after you learn about the American flag, maybe they'll have you draw the American flag, just to show you know.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yep, there's no physical materials. There's just one printout on the first lesson of the flag, and that is it. And there's no assessment.
Yeah, so for social studies, what you have from K-12 is only our 15 lesson social studies course. And the reason it's only 15 lessons is because it was designed as an add-on to our history curriculum, which is a full 72 lessons, but Knowledge Universe doesn't use our history curriculum. So you only have our 15 social studies lessons. And like they said, the lessons themselves vary in time, and the only way you really know is that green bar that I think you had pointed out earlier. If you hover over the green bar, it'll say like about 46 minutes remaining, or it might say about 25 minutes remaining. It just depends on how many activities are in that lesson. But for purposes of scheduling, I think most people block out regularly, like once or twice a week, 45 minutes or so in their schedule, you know, and either you take up the full time or you don't. No materials, like they said, it lives online, except for like there's usually one offline drawing something activity at the very end of the lesson. So, thank you. because that's so brief and not enough for a whole year, even though there's 15 lessons. There's various things you can do. So let me pull it up. Okay. And so basically what I'm just going to say is of those 15 lessons, it doesn't quite matter the order you teach them in so much. You can teach them in any order you want. So for example, one of the lessons is about rules. So maybe that's something you do at the beginning of the year because it jives with what you're doing in terms of classroom management. One of them's about national holidays. One of those is Thanksgiving, another's the 4th of July. So maybe you time it so you can teach the Thanksgiving piece around actual Thanksgiving. Pledge of Allegiance is lesson 1, but again, you probably do that in the beginning of the year because that's something that they do for the whole year. So these are modular. You can teach them whenever you like. You can revisit them whenever you like. If you want to, for example, just do the online chunk one day, and then the next day they can do that offline, drawing recap piece. You can split it like that. There are also some other resources that you can use. I don't know who wanted to talk about that, about what's in your setting. Everyone's chewing who might talk right now, so we'll wait a second. It's okay.
So one of the recommendations we have in the Consultant Services Better Detail is utilizing for past years kindergarten curriculum. So if you have an existing kindergarten program, some of the materials found within your kindergarten and care content, or even some of the hardcore materials purchased materials can be leveraged again. One of the other things I would say is a big component of social studies is community and what's happening in your community. And so looking at what sort
great suggestion. So there's really a lot of space here to, you know, add in your own creativity as well. And anywhere you can do that, but there's extra space in social studies. So, for the first time, now that we're halfway in, you might have noticed when we got here, I had little ABC response cards tucked in the front pocket of your binder. They're for these multiple choice questions. That I have a couple more sprinkled throughout. So, of course, once you think you know what the answer is, you can hold up the corresponding letter. Does everyone have cards? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So number one, and we'll have to think back to before lunch because we did most of this before lunch. Which course has all offline learning activities? A is phonics, B is lit and comp, C is math, D is social studies. It says all offline.
Oh,
You were right, James, with what you had on.
Mark? Made us rethink.
I know, you're like, wait. Just an additional look at the program assessments, and we already talked a little bit about the assessments for each course, so this shouldn't take too long, but I wanted to do just a little bit of a deeper look because it can be confusing because every course is assessed differently. And the assessments are more formal in some courses than in other courses, so I think it's important to know the difference. So I'm gonna pull up here. Okay. So it'll start as a bit of a review, and then as we get to the assessments, I'm gonna either pull it up or hold it up, whatever the case might be. So it's a bit of a memory test. Does anyone think they remember, and maybe the group who presented this, the literature and comprehension, do you remember what the assessments were for that course? I hear some nones, I hear some offs. So this is how I set up this chart with my little draggy boxes. Oh. No, there are no assessments here for lesson and also none for unit. So, good. So I'm not going to show you an example because there's nothing to show you. What some teachers do use though for assessments, you know, if they want to have a separate grade or a record, there are student activity pages that go along with some of the lessons, so they just collect that as examples of student work. Or, you know, if the student's asked to draw a picture of a particular, their favorite scene in a book or a passage, you know, they might save that as evidence of student learning for literature and comprehension. How about for language skills? Does anyone remember
Online. And
at the unit level? Yes, and it's online, right? And lesson assessment, you're right, is no. So I'm gonna pull up so you can see what the language skills online unit assessment looks like. I have to close this. I think I had to close that. Well, I closed it. So language skills. See, jumped again. I don't know why.
Can I try a keyboard shortcut to make it smaller?
What's that?
There's a keyboard shortcut that might make it smaller and keep it that way.
Is there?
But when you click on the next one, if it gets big again.
I'd love to know how to avoid that.
And see if it stays
They
that way.
don't keep it like that? Okay,
I don't know.
we'll try it. Yeah, I'll try anything at this point. Okay, so the unit checkpoint, and these are all 10 lessons long, so every 2 weeks you'll be doing one of these in literature, in language skills. And there's sound for these?
Click the red baseball cap.
Click the red baseball cap. So there's a couple different ways you can give these to your students. Any thoughts before I give you a couple ways, but how might you present this assessment to your class?
You could do the same cards like you just did with us. So
Yeah.
you have to choose one.
You can do response cards. Okay, and this is a good format for that because it's already in ABC. You can also actually print these out if you wanted to. So you can click, there's a print button that's always here. And you can print entire assessment. What is it blocking that? I guess that didn't work. So I'll open it, but what happens is you can print it out in hard copy, but you would still need to walk the students through it because it has sound, right? So when you have the hard copy, the sound doesn't really work as well. But it's easy to walk students through. So if you have it printed out and they all have the page in front of them, you can say, okay, number one, and you don't have to say, you can just click the button for them. And they
Click
all
the
have
red baseball cap.
they all have their paper in front of them, and they can circle their answers that way too. So it kind of depends on what your preference is. Like, do you want to collect and have something physical to have for every student for this, for language skills? Or do you occasionally want to do kind of like an informal glance around the room, see who's holding up the correct response card, for example?
Can you just skip to the next question without putting the answer in then, if you're trying?
Yeah, I think so. Good question. Yes.
Just go back and complete it at the end so it shows it's completed.
Yeah, you don't even have to complete
Okay.
it. Yeah, it's up to you. You can, I mean, you can click an answer and then at the end you can click submit, but you don't have to. Does that make sense? Okay. So you can print it or you can just have them, I mean, response cards or have them do it in front of them on paper. Okay, so that's our language skills. I probably shouldn't have closed what I already had opened, but. So we already talked about the top two. And how about for phonics? Does anybody remember what the phonics assessment situation was? At the lesson and or unit level?
Friday assessment offline.
Every Friday, yeah, every 5 days, your assessment is offline. At the unit level. So if you're noticing, it always defaults to pen when I open this, and I just have to remember to click the arrow. So.
We have a random question a little off that. So we're doing all the assessments, so I we like the idea of doing it on paper, something that we could like flip through. What goes on with meeting with families and report cards or things like that? So we're grading these papers, and I noticed we're not entering them online anymore like I thought we were. How are we gonna be doing this?
So that's a good question. I know some teachers have purchased like regular old school grade books that they record grades in. And they also keep portfolios of student work. For example, you might have the printed out assessment, you know, some art projects, things of that nature, and they discuss that during parent conferences. Did you want to add anything else about report cards?
Like K-12 doesn't have a form we fill out to share with families.
So you will still follow your kindergarten report card process. That is a change. Yes,
Okay.
we will use the information from these assessments as your input into that.
Okay.
But it's still the same report card process that you'll utilize to share as part of parent teacher conferences. You'll just use the information that you brought
You
up
back
from
it
these
up with this
assessments.
folder that we have printed.
And, you know,
Okay.
from a parent perspective, that portfolio component is so much richer for them than,
Oh, yeah.
you know, than sort of just the
so I just want to show you an example of the phonics offline. Like the group who presented said, there is a separate assessment book per child that you have. And when you administer it, the directions are in your teacher guide. So like, this is just their answer sheet. So when you administer, you basically, you have your guide here, and they have their books in front of them. And the guide gives you the directions of, you know, this particular part says ending sounds. Listen to the group of words, say which words end with the same sound. So your guide would tell you which words or sounds to say. Okay, so you won't see your questions in here. You basically have to have them both open at the same time. Okay. And I think you just told me separately, right? How do you want to talk a little bit about how you use these assessments?
I go to the whole group, except the one part, and then I think it's actually further on in the units where they have to read sentences to you. But the easiest way to try and do those is definitely to do the whole group because it's 4 pages. I think it's 4 or 5 pages
Varies.
for each unit. So the way I do it is I always make sure that I do it on Fridays. So my kids know the routine is, you know, every Friday we do phonics assessment, unless we don't have school that Friday. But if I have like a 4-day week, then I'll break up my other units so that I'm still making sure that I end every Friday. So it just gives them that sense of routine that they know when it's phonics time. They know that we go over, we do the few little online lessons that they get, and then they know that they're doing an assessment book also. It just makes it easier for them to keep up with their routine.
All right, thank you. Questions about phonics assessment? Handwriting? Anybody remember the assessment for handwriting? None. Right, there's none. But they do have those workbooks that they're practicing in, so you can save those as evidence. That's a really easy thing to save because it's all right there. How about for math? That one was from way early on. That was the first presentation.
Both the lesson and the unit assessment.
Yes.
Always on.
So they have both lesson and unit. The lesson is almost always offline, and you do have to print these out. These actually have to be printed out. I'll pull one up to show you, but let me reveal this one too. And yes, unit assessment, both. So usually there's an online piece, not always, but sometimes there's those 3 online questions followed by an offline piece. And those are not in the activity book pages. I'm not entirely sure why not, but they're not included in there. So let me jump back to math. This hasn't had an issue yet since you did that.
No, I'm crossing my fingers.
Yeah. I don't know why that works, but I'm glad that it does. So if I go over, so there's always more than one way to access something in the system, but if I go to materials, I guess it's not here either. But maybe there is only one way to access it. That's not the first time I've done that. I always think the checkpoint would be in the materials section, but in that case it wasn't. So I'll just do the shortcut. I'll go right to the checkpoint. And it says, print the checkpoint and have students complete it on their own. You have to hit begin to get to the checkpoint. And it's right here. It's assessment sheet. So you'd have to pull that up. And this assessment sheet is what you would print out for the children.
Something I remember from the all the training and everything was, even though it says on their own, it doesn't mean send the kid off by themselves to go do it. It just means you can't give them the answers, right?
Right, yeah, like
Okay.
you can read the questions to them and make sure they understand the directions, but, right, so, and they're not supposed to like work with a partner on it or anything, yeah, exactly, good point. So that's the lesson assessment, and then unit assessment is essentially, so this is where I had clicked earlier with those 3 online questions, and this is also the same deal where you have to print the checkpoint and have students complete it on their own. So you just have to remember to do that when you come to a checkpoint lesson, to have these printed out and ready for your children. So just something to remember. Nicole, was there anything else about the math assessments, or was that?
I don't know, those are different ones that I do, I print out, do whole group, and I put those in their portfolios, any assessments I put in their portfolios, just so that I can go back and reference, and especially like with report cards, and parent teacher conferences, if somebody's asking, you know, parent asking a question, I have a quick easy reference, and I can do that.
Okay, great. Any, go ahead.
Sorry, I actually had a question for you. Do you go through and print all these in advance, so that way when you get to it, you just have to make like 15
I print
copies?
out, I have a binder, it's probably about this size,
Okay.
and I go through and I did it years back, but I just printed out every single,
And that
I
was-
did lesson checkpoints and unit checkpoints, and they're all whole parts of the binder, so when we get to them, I just have to go through and photocopy for that many class, people in my classes. So I have it as a quick reference guide. Same thing I meant to say with the science, with your black math knowledge, definitely put those in the worksheets inside the binder also.
Okay.
Yeah, they're already hole punch. Okay. So we did math. What about for art? So that, I don't think we talked a whole ton about it, but it was mentioned.
Free assessment questions.
Yeah, lesson online only, exactly. So, yes, online for the lesson level, and there's not anything at the unit level. So I'm gonna jump back into art. And the art are fairly informal. While I'm pulling this up, Nicole, do you use yours? Is it like informally when you use your art assessments, or how do you manage those?
Yeah, I kind of make up, I don't want to say make up my own, I do use them, but I have them printed out also, and then on the back of their artwork, I just write, what the post-it note, like, did they meet what skills they're meant to be met.
So you record that on the back of their artwork. That's a good
I put
idea.
it on a post-it note so that, like, you know, when I go home, parents can rip off the post-it note, they kind of, you know, they can see it, but I make sure that, like, another thing with your artwork, and I ran into this issue, is make sure that they put their names on the back, because a lot of parents will say, well, Johnny's artwork is okay, you know, fantastic, and then my child's artwork, look at it, it doesn't look like what it's supposed to, so this way, if their name's on the back, then you are not, you know, they're not gonna come to you. If their child says, well, so-and-so did this, and this is mine, you know, then you kind of can be able to block it, but it's not out there, to see.
That's a good idea. So if you have like a Picasso and then a me,
Yeah.
kind of.
Parents do get upset about that.
Okay. Yeah, because you have to be very sensitive. So I'm gonna click on lesson assessment just to jump right into it, but you can get to it if you just go through the lesson slide by slide. I just want you to get a look at how it looks different. So I'll hit take assessment now. And it's gonna have your center name in here, so this is, did Mulroe tell you what a portrait is? Because that's how I named your demo series, so kinda silly. But they're usually simple questions directly related to what type of art you were learning about. So in this case, what is a portrait? Yes or no? Did I know what a portrait is? Do they know what a self-portrait is? And did they create a self-portrait? So really, I don't envision you like pulling this up and then giving the assessment to everyone. As students proceed through the lesson, by observation, you should be able to tell who is able to create a self-portrait, and by extension, do they know what a self-portrait is? Because if they can make it, then they know what it is. And you might just ask the class, what's the difference between a self-portrait and a portrait, and have them talk about it with a friend or something. And so it's more informally based. I think a lot of the assessment is really just based on the project itself. Did they create it appropriately? You know, yes or no. And what some teachers do, and I really like, is at the conclusion of an art lesson where you make a project, they have the students come up and present their artwork to the rest of the class. So they could say, you know, here's my portrait, here's a straight line, here's a wavy line, you know, here's for the lesson about shapes, I drew a triangle here and a circle here. So as they're presenting, it builds their speaking skills, but it also is evidence to you that they understood what the concepts of the lesson were. So, and I think that's always, you know, if you don't do it all the time, you know, maybe like once a week or something, you have students take turns presenting to each other. So you can already see the difference between the art assessment and say like the phonics or the math assessments, where you're like grading it and you know, holding on to it. It's definitely translating right to the report card, where this is more project based, even a little bit more subjective, right, than the others. Okay, a couple more. How about social studies? Yeah, not so much happening there. It says yes online because, and no for unit, there's only one unit. When you're in a social studies lesson, there's a section called Try It, that most lessons have, and it's 2 to 3 multiple choice questions. So if you want to use that as a grade, if you want to translate that those 3 questions into a grade, you absolutely can. And I know this one definitely has a Try It. So try it. It's not referred to the formal assessments are called checkpoints. So this is not called a checkpoint. But up here you'll see it says assessment. Okay, so here's the question: which is a law, A, B, or C? So you can print it out, again by going to the print, and it should work this time because I enabled pop-ups. Yeah, there you go. So you can print it out like this and then just read it to the students. Or they can do the response cards, you know, if you have those. Or if you don't make response cards but you have dry erase boards, they can write their answers on a dry erase board. So again, a little bit more informal here. And then the last 2 are science. So module science, which are like your census and trees totes. Do you remember the way you assessed those? Exactly. Yeah. They're in here. And this is what Nicole was saying about just putting it in a binder because they're already hole punched. And before you write your students' names down the sides, you want to make sure you copy it first. So, but this is your means of assessment for those science modules. Is this checklist? Oh, the Blackline Masters? Yeah, it comes in a shrink wrap package. But in your teacher guide, these are called embedded assessment checklists. So that's what these are referred to as. And that's it. So nothing for the unit here, but you have your checklist version. And then finally for virtual science, I don't think we mentioned this, but when you have to go into those virtual lessons, depending on what your pacing guide tells you, there are no unit assessments. There are, at the lesson level, there's online assessments, and they look a lot like the art assessments, except minus the art project. Oh. Okay. Not quite sure what I did there, but. So I'm just going to pull up a Science K. And this is the minority of what you're teaching, so you're going to rely more on the checklist, but these assessments are typically 2 or 3 questions. And you can print it out, but depending on, sometimes there's short answers, so I think a lot of times this is easier if you know these questions in advance, and I'm sure you will because of your lesson planning, you can make sure you ask these questions to students as you kind of, walk among the groups when they're doing their hands-on science activity. You can just make sure that students know what these questions, the answers to these questions. So it's pretty basic, okay? And people have more or less of these lessons than others. Did you want to say anything about the science assessment or orally? Okay. All right, great. So overall, or right now anyway, do you guys are there any burning questions or things you are wondering about or are concerned about as far as the assessments go? Okay. We just like to take that extra 15 minutes or so because, as you can see, they're very different from each other depending on subject area. So we just want to make sure that's clear. And if you hadn't noticed, this grid is copied, all filled in your binder already, in the assessment. I think the binder tab is called assessment. So, okay. And I have another show you now, so get those response cards ready. I'm also going to use my popsicle sticks just to pick a couple people's names, just get an idea of what you wrote down, all right? Because I just want to use them. So, Jennifer?
In your computer, your OSL login, you need to know how long the activity is going to be, whether it's offline or online. You need to have what materials you need and how you're going to administrate it with open or small group.
Right. Very good. All good things. Does anyone have, Lauren, do you have anything different? Or I know you're still writing. So.
I was writing the thing she said. The objective of the lesson, I have run through the lesson plan ahead, know if there's an assessment versus no assessment, and incorporate the prior knowledge of the students.
Great, I like that one. And I'll do one more. Karen.
I have basically everything. One of the things I don't know if she had said in the lesson length.
Mhm.
And the curriculum book, objectives, materials, and what needs to be printed out.
Great. Yeah, all of those things, everything all of you said, super important. So as you can see, there's a lot of moving pieces and things you have to be aware of when you're planning your lesson, especially this first year. Because as I'm sure Nicole can tell you, it gets easier every year that you keep using the program. But the first year you have to put a lot of work into it. So okay. What I would like to do is, can everyone come up and stand, like right here? Just form like a line. Just so we're all standing up because
Facing you?
yeah, well facing the board. Maybe not me, but yeah, curvy line. And I'm gonna like semi-rapid fire maybe, just have people come up here and click on certain things. Okay.
This afternoon.
What's that?
Being very nice this afternoon.
Well, I was like, people look like I know we just had lunch, but this is like when people start to get tired.
Yeah.
Well, you know, with your own kids,
Lunch
right?
was sluggish, yeah.
Yeah, and we're like on East Coast time, so we're
Uh-huh.
probably extra sluggish. So this is for you, because I care.
Heard that one.
Yeah.
Use that.
Yes. Okay. So there are some really specific pieces in the lesson that I want to make sure that you all know how to get to, because when you're planning, you need to pull these pieces up, quickly so that you can plan effectively. You only have a certain amount of time each day to plan your lesson. So can someone come up and click on the materials tab? Thank you, Tim. Great. Materials tab, super important. You need to know where this is. It tells you everything that you need and also has any PDFs in case you don't have your book right next to you, or like if it's a checkpoint and you need to print it out, you can find those things here. How about the advanced prep tab? Thanks, Francis. Yeah. Some of these are the learning coach strategies, which I said you don't really have to watch those videos, but obviously advanced prep you need to know, sometimes even like several days in advance. So this is having you label sheets of paper with different colors, for example. So it doesn't, you'll notice like lesson 1 jumps to lesson 3, that's because there's no prep for lesson 2. Okay. How about the objectives tab?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She could say standards.
Actually, I'm not. I wasn't. Those, I don't think those are filled in, actually. But you have it on your pacing guide and in your alignment stock, which I'll show later. But yeah, your objectives. This is one way you can get to your objectives, is through here, in a very convenient way. And I believe you can also, if you do your plans electronically, it's up to you guys, but you can copy and paste, which is helpful. Okay, now I'm gonna get a little bit harder, because we're not gonna stay on this page. Can someone go into any lesson and pull up the lesson navigator? Okay, thank you. You're good. So far, so good. Yeah, any lesson. They all have it. All right, thank you. Awesome. Good job. See, that was a little bit harder. It shows you what the learning activities are, which is really helpful. And it also, if you notice, you see there's a computer icon and a piece of paper. That tells you if it's online or offline. So that's a quick look. Yeah, so that's yeah, that's a quick way to know what's online and offline, and it also can let you jump around to different sections. I don't think I'm just gonna jump to lesson completion because I haven't actually shown you that you can do this, but as you finish a lesson, oh, we're in reference courses. I'm foiled. I'm gonna jump back to where you were before. But that was that's grayed out in reference courses. You can't mark it. No, you're tricking me.
You're making her work.
Yeah. I'm like brain dead right now.
So she wouldn't be able to say lesson because it's just over there.
Yeah, it's read only, so you can't. So that box is grayed out. Really, what reference courses is especially great for is for those math adaptive lessons because they're unlocked automatically. You don't have to purposely answer questions wrong or anything. What was I going for? Oh, marking lessons. And at the end of this lesson, and go through the lesson is really important. So make sure you like run through each one, maybe even just 5 minutes, but go through all the screens, and if there's any games associated with it, play those games so you know how they work. They're pretty simple, but every once in a while there's a game where you're like, wait, I don't know how to, so it's better to figure that out without the children on the carpet in front of you. Review the assessment, if there is an assessment, and consider your students. Do you need to differentiate anything? Do you need to modify anything to meet the needs of all your students or maybe just one or two? So those are just some things to consider. And if you want to jot any notes down, there's a space there for that as well. And this actually takes us into the delivering a lesson. So they obviously go hand in hand. You want to get all your planning done pretty well, maybe even plan more than you need to so that when it comes time to teach your students, you have as many of your bases covered as you can. You know, those kids always throw us curveballs, but at least you're as prepared as you can be. So delivering a lesson.
Can I just ask one more question? For planning your lesson, what is your typical for when you're planning it? Do you plan it like at home for the week? Are we doing it like?
Oh, okay. So
feel like it happens every
I know the
single
answer to
day?
that. Nothing at home. That I know the answer. But I wanted to. Hey, Caitlin. I'm sorry. Do you know how many prep minutes do they get?
So it is, of course you're gonna ask me this.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's, you can break it up, so it's either 30 minutes a day with a total of 2.5 hours per week.
That's covered.
That there are labor hours allocated to your center for that time.
So 30 minutes a day or
Or
2.5.
or cumulative, that
Yeah.
looks like 2.5 hours per week. So however you choose to negotiate that time with your center director, you know, whether from a prep perspective, it's your preference to do that in a 2.5 hour block. If you really just wanna sit down for the week and just get that all done. Or if you have a greater preference to do 30 minutes per day, you know, you guys can kind of look at what makes sense both for your teaching style as well as what makes sense for the center and
Okay.
what you know, you can afford in terms of coverage.
Okay.
Great, thank you. I should know that by now,
No.
but.
I had to hold on. I was like, wait, what is turkey?
All right, so for delivering a K-12 lesson, you guys, well, some of you, maybe this you've been teaching for like many years. 14, yes, wow, congratulations. Thanks. So I wanted to just give you an opportunity to talk about what you think are some best practices for actually delivering a lesson to students. Because I'm going to go through some different strategies, but I've never taught kindergarten, I taught 5th grade, so your ideas are going to be different from mine, perhaps. So what I'd like to do is actually have you stand up again. I should have made you just keep standing here. But how many people do we have? 10? Yeah? Okay, so we're going to do concentric circles. Do you guys know that? Yeah? Okay, so we'll have 5 people make like a, I wanted to look through just some other best practices. We call these our big 5. So this is on the page behind the planning document in the planning and delivering section. It's called Delivering a K-12 Lesson. So the first one is connect to prior knowledge, which we have said multiple times. And at the bottom of each square, I just tried to put in some techniques, you know, so you have them for reference. So knowledge mapping, are you guys familiar with knowledge mapping? How about give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down or like a thumb in the middle? I see some middle thumbs. Okay. Once you see it, you'll know what I mean, but sometimes the terminology. Okay. So knowledge mapping is basically, so if our topic is living things. Yeah. So who can tell me one thing about living things? Yeah, anybody? No, for real. Can anyone tell me something about
They grow.
They grow.
They breathe.
They breathe. Okay, so everyone's saying how terrible the handwriting was. This is my handwriting. So that's knowledge mapping. Prediction guides, I don't know if you're familiar with those. And with kindergarten, you do them more orally, but it's basically give them some true-false questions before doing maybe a science lesson with them. So, so like, do living things grow? True or false? Or like, are trees alive? True or false? And just see if they can answer the questions like that before getting into the subject area. And also visual aids are great if the students don't have a lot of background knowledge about a particular area. So you can pull up, you know, a video clip or an actual image or, you know, anything. I mean, you have like the whole internet right here, so there's lots of things you can pull up. Although if you're doing an image search, you should probably do that first, like on your own, to make sure nothing shady pops up.
Shady.
But you know, I don't know. You never know, right? So that's prior knowledge, and also quick writing is another example of tapping into prior knowledge. Maybe they won't be writing. Well, they probably won't be writing paragraphs at the beginning of the year, but they could draw a picture. You know, like a picture brainstorm. So that was one of the areas, connect to prior knowledge. Another one right next to that is build vocabulary knowledge, which is so important to get these students to have a robust vocabulary, because that also is a great predictor of the kind of reader they will be as they proceed through high school. Interactive word wall, I know a lot, well, the classrooms I've been in, a lot of them have word walls, and I imagine a lot of you guys do as well. Interactive word walls, where students can illustrate the pictures, or something that you revisit and don't just have it up there like static. You can ask students, who could find the word that means and give the definition, or who can find a word that's a synonym of and give another word. So you're doing activities around the word walls, not just sitting there. Semantic mapping, do you guys know what that is? You can do like the thumb and thumbs down. Semantic mapping. So this is like, you can see another awesome example of my handwriting. My ability to draw straight lines. So let's do one for like insects. And then we can put a synonym there. So what's a synonym for like for the word insect? Bug. And what's an example of an insect? Fly. A fly. And how about characteristics of insects? Very good. characteristic, and then like a place you might find them.
The dirt.
Garbage. Yep, dirt. And so all these answers, you can be writing them all down. But that's semantic mapping, just like a deeper dive into a keyword. So. And a lot of these are going to be associated with science because that's generally an area where there's more diverse vocabulary that they may not have heard before. Oh, and sentences, of course. Students can write their own sentences, or you can write a class sentence with a particular word. Asking good questions, quality questions. So one example of this is just prompt for explanations like we did during the demo lesson. Just how do you know that? Why do you think that's the answer? Always ask them to delve a little bit deeper. And accessing those higher order thinking skills. It's so easy to just ask like those knowledge or comprehension level questions where it's, name one type of weather. Okay, you've mastered it, awesome. But that's a pretty low level question. So compare and contrast type questions are pretty helpful. So compare and contrast fish and snails, that's like at the analysis level. The Bloom's questioning taxonomy, that's what I'm referring to. Knowledge, comprehension, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. So just making sure you tap into some of those little bit more difficult types of questions instead of simply regurgitating the information. EPR techniques. EPR stands for every person response, which is huge when we have the board now as a teaching tool. So examples that I have written on the sheet are dry erase boards, thumbs up, thumbs down, response cards. There's a whole lot. Are there other things that you guys use in your classroom to keep all students active? Go ahead.
I don't know if that would be considered EPR techniques, but turn to talk. They just turn to talk to the person next to them to share their ideas.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Get ideas.
Yeah, like think, pair, share.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Trying really hard to give way time. Okay, and the last section, the other thing to consider is integrating additional writing and speaking opportunities. So I had think, pair, share here too, but that's every person responds too, so it kind of crosses categories. Concentric circles, what we just did, that's an extra speaking opportunity. Journaling is an extra writing opportunity that you can embed. You'll see in your science, there's lots of science notebook prompts actually in the teacher guide. So students can have their own science notebooks where they're either, they're writing words or they're drawing pictures of their observations, whatever they're learning in science class. And interactive writing where the class can create a sentence together, so the teacher can be up there writing and students can come up and take turns filling in the sentence. That's another opportunity as well. So So what else do you guys do? What are some of your other ideas, either related to those 5 categories, or are there other things that you do in your classroom that help you to effectively deliver your lessons?
I was just looking down here with the interactive writing. A lot of times we like to write stories as a class, so we'll talk about parts of the book and everything, title, author, illustrator, and then the beginning, middle, end, and then each child will kind of make a sentence, and we all kind of put it together.
Fantastic.
And then when they read it again, they just love it.
Yeah, and then they have a class
They're
book.
accomplished with it, yeah.
And do you do it like on chart paper?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we do it as like group during our large group time.
Great idea. I like that. Anybody else? Okay. Sometimes trying to count to like 5 in my head. That's definitely a flaw of mine. Okay, so what I'm going to spend a little bit of time doing, and I'll go through it kind of more quickly than I wanted to, but behind this page, you should have a, it's a lesson plan, but it's filled in. It looks like this. There's a lot of words on it. And my sort of disclaimer is that you don't have to use this as a template, although we have like 5 blank ones in there too. This is not like a requirement being put on you. It's just we're using it now for the purposes of kind of trying to focus your attention on certain things as you get used to planning these lessons. So that's my disclaimer. So this is at a level of detail that you wouldn't always need to be. But so this is Unit 9, Lesson 1. What about the weather? And I will say that most of you, regardless of your state, are have this unit in your plan because the weather is a pretty common kindergarten standard. So I think this is something most, if not all of you, would be using. So you'll notice across the top I have filled in the lesson number, the class, which is K-Science, the date, and below that I have filled in the lesson objectives, which, as we found, are right here. And also the keywords. So we have 3 keywords, and only one of them has pronunciation for some reason.
Temperature.
And also advanced prep, which, as we saw, was down here. And for this particular, so there's a little kind of directions right here. There's a grouping column, and it's also asking to call out any of those 5 categories we talked about. So the prior knowledge, the vocabulary. Oh yeah, no, we're good. Well, we might go a couple minutes into break, but we'll speed up in other places because you're all going to have to do this in a minute. So I want to make sure you understand. Vocabulary, speaking skills, and questioning strategies. So the first component, pre-teach, 5 minutes. This is an opportunity to pull up, and I always encourage teachers to pull up the objectives with your students because we're not keeping it a secret what they're supposed to be learning. So I think it's a good idea to pull up the objectives and talk about them, and also review the keywords. And I have a vocabulary sheet that I like to use, which will be here. Again, this vocabulary sheet is not something you have to use, but it's on KL Central. So it's just a way to focus attention on the vocabulary. So I picked weather as my focus word because that's super important for understanding of the whole unit. So they can start out just by writing the word weather 5 times. It's not really a deep dive, but it's getting it in their brains that this is an important word that they'll be learning more about. So, it was. We can look at it again when we go in later. So this can kind of be your pre-work, your objectives, your vocabulary. And jumping back into the lesson. And this is, I wrote up here, it's modified, okay, so this isn't like the entire lesson. So don't use this as your lesson plan when you get here, there's stuff that's missing. But this would be text that you would show to your students because you can read it to them, but a big pitfall that usually happens when you first start using the board is like you'll see a teacher up here staring at the board and just kind of reading it while the kids are just kind of like, okay, this is really boring. So you want to try to keep it as engaging as possible. So have you ever heard someone ask, what's the weather? And you can engage your students in, if you see on the sheet, connect to prior knowledge, you can have them do a quick write. You can have them draw a picture of, a type of weather or what the weather's like today. And you could even, since you have this board, you don't need to always utilize your chart paper, but you could, for example, I don't want to lose this. Start recording some of their ideas about weather words. So who can tell me a weather word? Anyone?
Rain.
Sunny, rainy, yeah, and you can just kind of keep a chart of all their weather words. And you can keep this for the entire unit and beyond. And it's handy because you can save it and keep pulling it up as many times as you need it. All right. Look out, what's the weather? Look outside. What's it like outside right now? The weather outside can be, and these are all terms probably that some of your children would have just mentioned. So this is reiterating it. And you could say, oh, weather, that's our target word. Let's talk some more about what you think the word weather means. So they can kind of put the definition in their own words, for example. Speaking skills. Have your students think, pair, share real quickly. Turn and talk. What's the weather like today? Turn to a buddy and tell them what the weather's like. So it's not just sitting and listening. They're doing things too. Even for these slides where it's just text, they can be doing things and thinking things. Higher order thinking skills. What was the weather like today compared to what it was like yesterday? You know, can you share with the partner or just, you know, share with the whole group? Compare and contrast those 2 days. Okay. I didn't touch that, right?
It's just messing.
Yeah. I didn't touch that either. Now Weather Brain, this is an activity. And you can, with instructions up here too, just for planning reasons. Today's August 13th, yes. Enter date. And then you could use students to come up, use popsicle sticks, for example, and click on each of these categories. So, for example, wind. What do you think the wind's like today? No wind, a little bit of wind, lots of wind, you know. So they input the data for each category. So you can use popsicle sticks to have students do that. I only filled out the one category, but. Okay, so it's negative 40 degrees, that's unfortunate, but, so that's just an example, and you'll probably all see this with your, okay? And then go to the next screen. And this is one, would you really spend much time up here with your students with this? Not really, it's just showing you what the materials are that you need. And there's a weather chart that you'd print out for your children. Now this is something that you will pull up for your students. So, have you ever watched a weather forecast? You can have the students share about why is it important to know what the weather will be like. You know, why is it important we have meteorologists or weather forecasters. We can go back to our weather words chart and write more words. You know, they might see these pictures and think of more weather words that they want to add to the chart. Interactive writing, you might write a sentence as a class about what the weather's like today, or they might write something in their journals, draw a picture of what the weather's like today. That's another option. They can predict what the weather will be like next week or next month. So that's actually a higher order thinking skill is predicting. So that's another question to throw out there. And this actually, I don't have this in the plan, but they're making a weather chart. So throughout the whole unit, they're recording the weather. Predicting tomorrow's weather. And then we get to the investigation, dress for the weather. And I wrote down, note any procedural modifications. So the activity as is, you would bring in clothing for warm weather and clothing for cold weather, and the students would kind of, you know, sort it out and discuss which is which. Maybe you do that, maybe you don't. You know, maybe you pull up pictures on your board of hot weather clothing and cold weather, you do that instead. But that's a modification that you're free to make. As long as you know what the objectives are, you can tweak the activity as needed. And at the conclusion, I always want to make sure I jump back to the vocabulary. So after you go through the lesson, you can come back and record a class sentence together, and then students are free to come up with their own independent sentence. And they can draw a picture as well. So you don't have to use this. This is just something that you could use for vocabulary. And at the bottom is the assessment section. And it's just a series of check boxes to help you determine, is it online, is it offline? Are you grading it? Is it more informal? This particular assessment. I'll pull it up quickly because this is a virtual science assessment like we looked at before. So I checked for this online ungraded. I probably wouldn't grade this one, more informal. And it could be observationally based. It's basically asking, were they able to complete their weather chart activity? And then there's a couple questions down here. What words can you use to describe the weather? What's the weather like today? All things that they've been talking about throughout the lesson, so you've probably already heard. The kind of clothing you would wear in cold, snowy weather, completely based on the activity. And then there's this question here, which you could just write, well, not an overlabel, but I could write an A and a B and just ask students response cards, or thumbs up if this is showing hot, sunny weather, and thumbs up if that's showing hot, sunny weather. So something of that nature. But I generally, these are done more informally, your virtual science. So that was super fast. Did that make sense? So this is basically just showing, you know, just things to think about as you go through the lesson instead of just reading the slides. Make sure you know where can you insert student engagement into these activities. Makes it more fun for you and for them. A better learning experience for everyone. So I only went over by 8 minutes, which is amazing. I'm going to do a 15-minute break right now, and then we'll come back and talk more about lesson planning and delivery. Okay? All right. This is where you guys are going to get a chance to kind of dive in and get some preliminary practice planning and delivering a lesson. So the way this will work is we're going to be in groups of 3, so we don't have to move yet. I'll probably just have Jennifer jump to another table of her choice so that we have 3 groups. And each group is going to get 1 lesson assigned to you. So you'll go up and pick it off the board like we did before. And you'll use the blank copy of the lesson plan. So you actually have 4 or 5 blank copies in your binder. You can use a blank copy to complete a plan of your assigned lesson. So that's part 1. And the second part is you'll look at, so within each lesson there's like a involved online activity, and you'll be teaching that online activity, not the whole lesson, just that piece, that online piece, to the rest of the group. So you'll pretend that we're all children. So there'll be like 3 teachers up here, and then everyone else will be the participants. Does that make sense? So it's twofold. You're kind of had a volunteer to go first, or volunteers to go first. So I'll just ask if you guys could just close your laptops while the other groups are going. And think about, as you're watching them present, what are some best practices they're using, or what are you finding really effective about their presentation? And then we'll just take a couple minutes at the end to do a little debrief about each presentation. Okay. So we have Michelle, Lauren, and James presenting their overview. You already got it, Michelle.
Do it.
Good job going into students.
See that?
I saw it.
Okay. You have to go to the Explorer.
Good job with the lesson navigator too.
Hi guys, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Miss Lauren, this is Mr. James, and this is Miss Michelle. And we are gonna review body parts and colors that we've been learning this week. Ready? Who's ready? All right, let's do this. All right, so we are gonna play a really cool game called Boat Adventure. So Miss Michelle has all your names in her little bucket, and when it's your turn, she's gonna pick your name. And Mr. James, Mr. James is going to help to see if we get right answers. Okay? You ready to play? All right, let's do it. All right.
Welcome to the boat adventure. Click a map to start your adventure.
Today, we are going to visit Dinosaur Island.
Do you want to use this map?
Dinosaur Island has 5 places we need to stop. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You ready? All right, we're going to go to number 1. Let's see.
Yes. You are beginning your journey to Dinosaur Island.
There's our boat.
At each stop, choose the answer to each question. The more answers you get right, the more items you'll get for your boat. Good luck.
All right.
Which cup is red?
First question. Let's listen one more time.
Which cup is red?
Which cup is red? Miss Michelle, can you pick a friend for us?
Dale.
Dale. Do you know which cup is red?
The middle one.
The middle one. Let's pick the middle one. Who agrees with Dale? If you agree with Dale, put your hand on your head. Ooh, I think everybody has their hand on their head. Mr. James, can you check it for us?
There we go.
Yay! All right.
Which backpack is black?
The first one.
It's not your turn yet. Let's. She got super excited. She's like, "This game is awesome." We're gonna pick a new friend.
Francis.
Francis, it's your turn. Let's listen one more
Which
time.
backpack is black?
Which backpack is black?
The first one.
This one is the one you think?
Yes.
All right, go ahead. And Mr. James, can you check to see? She got it right! Good job! All right, let's keep going. Let's listen up. Can you pick one more name for us?
Rebecca.
Rebecca, it's your turn. Are you excited? All right, let's see. I think Rebecca can do it.
Which butterfly is orange?
Which butterfly is orange? Do you want to come point to it? Give it a try. All right. Who here agrees with Miss Rebecca? Let's put our hand on our belly this time if you agree with Miss Rebecca. Everybody has their hand on their belly. Miss Rebecca, let's check it out. See if you're right. All right. Good job, Miss Rebecca.
Which bird is white?
Let's pick a name. One more.
Karen.
All right, Karen, it's your turn. Let's listen.
Which bird is white?
Which bird is white? Do you want to have a turn? Come up and touch it. All right. This time, if you think that Karen's right, if she picked the white bird, put your finger on your nose. Once again, everybody agrees? We have a smart group of friends. Yay! Good job.
Which flower is blue?
Which flower is blue? Let's pick a new friend.
Caitlin.
Caitlin.
The last one.
The last one? You think this one?
Yep.
All right, go ahead and touch it. Who agrees? Put your hands up in the air if you agree that she picked the right one. Give them a wiggle. Get all your wiggles out. Let's check. Good job, guys. We're really good at
Great
this.
work. Choose an item for your boat.
Because we are so smart, we get to choose an item for our boat. So there's an ice boat, there's a castle boat, a turtle shell boat, a flag boat, and a pirate. We get to pick so many cool things for our boat because we're so smart that we're just going to pick one of our friends to help us out this time. And maybe you can get a chance next time. Who's going to pick?
Jennifer.
Jennifer! She says turtle shell. Let's do it. All right, we have ourselves a turtle shell.
So is it okay with you guys if I stop you here because each island is like?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very long.
Okay.
We were like, I wonder if we have to play the whole game.
So there's 5 islands total at the same time.
Click the yellow scarf.
And at each island you get to add something to your boat, you know, like a flag or a penguin.
We were gonna do things with body parts, like show you body parts.
Oh
as we
yeah,
go
yeah.
on,
So
but-
this is color questions and then there's body part questions. So that would have been cool
Yeah.
too when it's like point to your arm, then you can
Yeah.
point to your arm. So that would have been fun, but this is long.
Yeah.
But the boat adventure is the unit review for every unit in my field. So you'll be seeing this a lot. That's why I wanted to make sure to include it. So this is a good one. So let's give them a round of applause.
Routine.
And what did you guys think? What did you like about their presentation?
I said that they had a great intro, and the others that answered to it. The thing that I really liked about this, and I wish that was possible with all the games, is that they didn't go into the game before they explained it. If they would have gone into it, then my kids would have been all excited because you have all the different, you know, the dinosaur, you have the one.
Yeah.
There's 3 of them. There's the dinosaur, the mermaid, and the underdog. So then you lost them because they're all excited about picking what the very end of that island, what it's going to do is you're still going to get to pick your item, but it's going to give you the option. You can either go back and repeat the question that was wrong, or you can just continue on where you're at. If you choose to continue on where you're at, you lose one of those items to pick. So instead of having 5, you're going to have 4. If you get 2 questions wrong, you only have 3. So then it kind of makes them, they really want that last item to pick for, so to make them want to go back and repeat that. So as soon as you fix that question, it goes back to the end again. So it's great for self-checking.
Yeah, we didn't even get one wrong.
Yeah.
Didn't even see what happened.
Yeah, so it would have basically had an X across one of those options. So we couldn't have made
Yeah, it's just
couldn't
what
have
they're
highlighted.
highlighting.
So, yeah. Anyone else want to share any comments? I liked how you did it as a take on up, thumbs up, thumbs down, like put your hand on your head or your belly. I thought that was really fun. So I personally like that. So great job. Thank you very much. Which group would like to go next? Okay. Name that sound group.
What I was like.
Come up.
Do you wanna come up? So how that works?
Stand right here.
We can go in. We can go in this one, right?
I think yeah.
Doesn't matter. And what just happened? Oh, we're in the jar.
You can actually click on overview.
Overview.
Yeah, see
On
that
the
green
left.
tab all the way on the left?
Oh.
And then you can switch to
Ah. So it was science K, right?
consensus and
No,
trees.
yeah. Gotta go down one.
Oh, census
Yeah.
and trees.
Get my money. We got airport yesterday.
And list. And hopefully we would have it at least under the screen
Two.
before we had the kids all waiting.
2.
Too.
Somebody's.
I think the kids like this stuff.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
You have this thing. It's yours.
Where was the game? Was it one more? One more. Okay. So right before this, we just made shakers. We're talking about our senses, so we just all made some shakers and we had to try to see what was inside them. So that's a little preface.
So everybody shake your shakers. All right, good. Now put them behind your back. Awesome. Now they're out of our way and we are focused on our game. Close your eyes. What sound do you hear? What do you hear right now? Anybody want to raise your hand and tell me what sound you hear? What sound do you hear? Servers. That's a funny thing for a kindergartner to say. Yes, I hear servers. Anybody else? One more friend? James, what do you hear?
Your voice.
My voice. Is it a peaceful sound or is it an unpleasant sound? Oh, good. Okay. Well, we use. Good. Anybody want to jump
I know
in?
it's weird having 4 teachers.
Yeah, it is really
I
hard
wanted
to
to
roll
be one.
What do you use to hear?
Raise a quiet hand.
What body parts
What
do
body
you
part
use?
do you use to hear?
Your ears?
Your ears. That's right. Everybody turn on your listening ears because we're gonna play a game called Name That Sound.
Turn them up. Boop, 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 boop.
All right. So we're gonna divide our classroom into
Two
two teams.
So when I call your name, you're gonna come up and have a seat on this side of the carpet. We're gonna do 2 teams, one on this
The wall
side
team.
and one on that side.
The table
Okay?
team.
Sorry, that's me and you.
You're fine. Oh, she's not here today.
Oh my gosh, why am I picking James? Come on up.
Hey,
You're gonna have a seat
James.
right up here for us, please.
Remember to stay behind the tape, guys.
I moved it. Sorry.
Rebecca, you're gonna come up and have a seat on this side. So you're gonna start us on our other team for us, please.
Make sure you
Alicia, you're gonna come and join James. Lauren, you are going to come up and join Rebecca.
Go team.
Francis, Francis, come on up. You are going to join this team over here. And last but not least, we have Michelle. Come on up and join us over here, please.
Good job, guys. And we were all talking, and because we just did really, really well during our last lesson, and everybody paid attention and followed the rules, we have time to do 10 different sounds before we do lunch. I mean, we only have 5. But, good job. Sorry, guys.
Buzzkill over there.
You guys ready to play?
All right, we're gonna use our ears to listen.
I gotta put in how many teams we have. And how many teams do we have?
2.
2. How do you think we would start the word 2? What letter does 2 start with?
T.
T. T. We have 2 options. We're gonna go through the whole thing.
Welcome to Name That Sound. There are 2 teams. You'll take turns listening to a sound and trying to guess what makes that sound. If everybody's ready, let's get started.
You guys understand
Here's
the
how the
directions?
game works. First, press the play sound button to hear the sound. Then decide what makes that sound. You'll get a second chance if you need to hear the sound again. When you're ready, press the play button to hear the sound.
But because we have 2 teams, I have these bells. I don't know, you could use whatever you had in your room, but I'm gonna put bells in front of you guys, and it's very, very, very important that we do not shout out the answer, because the other team might get your points. So it's first person who rings the bell, that team is gonna get a guess, and then they'll get to come up and reveal and see if they're right, but it's very important that we don't shout the answers out. That's right. All right, you guys ready? Double check your ears, make sure they're all on. Okay? Here's the sound. Here we go.
If you know, slap the bell in front of you.
All right, red
Okay,
team.
Team 1, name that sound.
A bell?
Would you like to go reveal it and find out?
Go see if you
I don't know how specific.
we don't either.
Shazam!
I was gonna
A
say.
cowbell. Great job. Actually, while you're up here, do you want to give yourself some points?
Are you ready?
Press the up arrow.
Go. What shape is that up arrow?
It was a triangle.
We saw that this morning.
You guys are listening.
Great listening ears.
Are we ready for the next one? So remember, if you think you know it, slap the bell in front of you.
Next
You have to hit next time.
Let's move on to the
We
next
just
sound.
went through this.
And it actually alternates, so like that was team 1's turn, and now it's
I'm
team
just
2.
seeing that now.
Split up.
We couldn't hear that, so
Yeah, but
Right.
can't we have to input our own points.
You do have to input your own points, but like.
So it will only
if
let us
team-
input yellow?
If
they
team 1
didn't.
shouted out the answer to team 2's question, you could not put in points.
Oh.
So now
Okay.
you put in points for
oh, so we're gonna rewind.
That's okay.
Learn the game better and
Team 2's turn now.
All right.
Okay,
So we've
so
got
it's
team 2.
So if they
Yeah.
don't get the correct answer, we cannot reward you your points, right? Does that work? Okay.
so you
Okay.
guys have to be really quiet. You don't want to give them the answer. Are you ready, team 2?
We're ready.
All right, ladies. What does that sound like?
I took your bells
Okay,
away,
team
so you
two.
guys can
Very
discuss.
good.
You can discuss with your
A
team.
xylophone? A harp?
Harp.
Are you ready to
It's
reveal?
like a kid's game. It's not a harp.
Oh, there are some hard ones on here,
There were?
just to let you know.
Can we hear it again?
Yep, you get 2 chances.
One more time. I don't blame you.
Good.
It's the harp.
A harp or a piano?
A xylophone would be more
I
of like.
think it's a piano.
That's not piano.
I don't know.
Rebecca, would you like to go and reveal?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh,
It's a xylophone. You pick. You pick.
a harp?
She says it's a harp.
I hear harp.
Can we steal?
Can we steal?
Hey, press
Good
job, Rebecca.
Give us some points.
How many times can I push it?
That's right.
Right, are you ready, red team?
All right, team 1.
This is for red team. Yeah,
I played the other 2.
Okay, I haven't played that.
Ready?
5-year-old has never played harp before.
Yellow
Team
team.
You don't want to have to take
All
the
right.
points away.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's a dog.
Alright, who'd like to reveal it, James?
Okay, James.
Okay, Team 1. Name that sound.
He is.
Just gotta click it.
Here's what you heard.
How many of you have a dog at your house? Do you have a dog?
Chuck,
Oh,
take
you
your
have a.
points.
Does your dog bark often?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear dogs a lot.
Are we running out of time? We'll pretend the
Don't
game.
hate me, but I'm gonna pretend
Nope,
that you-
it's fine.
Yeah.
Game over. We might just recap some of the sounds if time was permitting, and which sounds are annoying, which sounds are fun, and blah blah blah.
What sounds you hear outside, inside?
Yep.
Thank you very much. So, as you guys are returning to your seats, think about what you liked about their presentation. I like what you said just at the very end. You want to recap the sound and talk about what are pleasant sounds, what are maybe annoying sounds, where might you hear the sound. Also, how one of you asked who has a dog, you know, to protect it prior to knowledge. Anything else? Any other thoughts about their lesson?
I liked that we sat up close to it.
That you all sat on the front
Yeah,
of it?
so we were all going up.
I like that it was a team-based activity, and it wasn't like a win or lose necessarily. Like you could tweak it to make it so it wasn't a win or lose situation, and it gives them like a team activity to do, where they can learn to be part of like a group, as opposed to just like, okay, you get to go up. All right, it's your turn. It was
But
like
if the
split.
team just say they were bummer losers and they didn't get as many points, well, you know what? If we can get through all of our stuff today, maybe we can
Play
rematch
again.
in the afternoon or something like that.
Yeah, you can come back to this game as many times as you want, just not to be just on this one.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, that's awesome. So now we have a recycling game.
Do you want to get the popsicle sticks ready? Sure.
And while they're bringing this up, even the other pieces, like where you guys were connecting to other subject areas, like how many teams do we have? You know, what letter do you start with? Like, what do teams do? So I like that connecting to others and trying to make a good one.
For a couple of years.
She said we think that each class should
I thought we were just gonna start with that.
Yeah, just go in. Yeah.
We can just talk about real quick what we just did.
Should just be the next screen.
Yeah.
Well, whenever you guys are ready.
Yeah.
Gonna start yelling at us. Do you want to start?
Okay. Good afternoon, boys and girls. So we just learned about resources and recycling. So now we're going to play a game about sorting different objects into their correct recycling bin.
So you want to bring it now or wait until?
Yeah, so we can all just come sit on the rug so we're closer.
Is this science or social studies?
This is social studies.
studies. Okay.
Oh, you have.
Take my spot. My dirty mouth.
I can bring you a copy.
Huh?
Do you want to explain the game before I turn it on?
Okay, we're gonna play a game about how to sort things for recycling. Doesn't it sound exciting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to start with, we're gonna do some practice.
Start. The garbage collector is coming today, and all the garbage needs to be sorted into the correct bins. Click each piece of garbage, and then click the bin it belongs in to put it there. Let's practice. Put the newspaper into the green paper recycling bin.
If you want.
What is paper? Or what is paper? What is the newspaper made out of?
Paper.
Paper. So it would go in the
Paper.
paper bin.
Newspaper.
Would you think of one more time?
Put the milk jug into the blue plastic recycling bin.
Why would we put the milk jug in the plastic bin?
It's made of plastic.
Very
Good job.
Milk jug,
talks too much.
plastic. Put the can into the red metal recycling bin.
So, if I put the can, does it go into this one?
No.
Why not?
Because it's made of metal.
It's made of metal, so we want to put it in
The red one.
the red one.
Tin can, metal. Some items might be reusable, such as the stuffed animal. Put reusable items back into the house.
Why is that stuff
Why
animal
are we throwing that
reusable?
away?
We need to fix them.
Send it to Goodwill.
Okay, we could fix them. What else could we do with something that's reusable?
Give it to a neighbor.
We could give it to somebody else. That would be a nice thing to do, wouldn't it? So we're gonna take him
Stuffed animal.
and put him.
The stuffed animal could be given to a friend or family member. Put any garbage that cannot be recycled or reused, such as the slice of pizza, into the black trash bin.
Now, why do you think?
I was gonna say, we all went to college. Little do you know.
Why do you think we can't reuse or recycle that pizza? It would go bad.
You can't turn it into something new.
It's old.
Can't turn something. It's got germs. Very good answers. That's good thinking.
Pizza, trash.
Okay.
Good job.
This is round 1. Now for round 2, before we get started, we're going to review it really quick, and I'm going to have each one of you come up and draw a line to match it to the board. And then we'll put it in there to make sure that we're right.
Continue. Newspaper.
You can close that, actually. So you see at the bottom of that bar on the left, right above the window symbol.
Okay.
Yeah, just hit close and exit without saving.
Okay.
Newspaper.
Alright, yeah.
Alright, so our first friend, what's that?
We're going for a yogurt cup.
Alright, so Michelle, come show us where the yogurt cup would go. And all of you can be thinking about where she should
You can get rid of that line.
Yogurt cup.
Try it.
Plastic.
Ta-da! Let's
Nice.
go.
Good answer.
Alright. Who else wants to turn?
James.
This is plastic wrap.
Where was that? What do we think?
Okay. We all agree on that one?
Good.
Yep.
So you can try and put it in there if you want to, James. You can drag it in.
Fold.
Foil.
Uh-oh. That's tricky.
That's tricky.
Your teacher played you out.
Good job.
Okay.
That was the tricky one because it was kind of hard to tell what it was.
So we should probably click on it and have
If you
it.
click on it, will it tell you what it is if you click on
Yeah.
it?
So you wanna click on
Alright,
it.
so the next one is
Egg carton.
So an egg carton. So Caitlin can come. You can just have them drag it.
Yeah.
I think we get the hang of it, right?
Metal, put it in the metal.
Let's see what happens. It's an egg carton. I
Egg
think
carton.
it's metal.
Metal.
Tap.
Rejected.
The egg carton doesn't have to be thrown out. Egg, paper.
I don't know what it was made out of.
It was clearly organic eggs they come in.
Mine come in metal.
Mine's not.
Alright, so what was the egg carton made out of, Caitlin?
Paper.
Paper. Very good.
Very nice. What's that next one?
Oil.
Paper towel.
So Dale, come show us where our paper towel goes.
Can you recycle a paper towel? I feel like negative.
That's a good question. Can you recycle?
We're gonna find
I'm a
out.
little confused in my hotel room. The recycling. I blow my nose. I really want to put it in the trash, but I feel like I should recycle it.
So where did it go?
It just went
In trash.
Where'd you
Why do you
go?
think
Yeah.
the paper towel went in trash and not in the paper?
It was
Because
dirty.
it
It had
stuff
germs on it.
It had stuff on it, maybe some germs or something that we couldn't reuse very well.
I'm actually gonna stop you guys, if that's okay. So just so there's a couple of different rounds of this game, and as you keep going, they'll give you like reusable things that you can drag to the table, and it's actually cool. Like the yogurt cup, you could recycle the plastic, and then maybe another round you put it on the table, and it'll say yes, you can reuse this for like an art project. So there's actually like for some things, there's different places you can put them. And you'll see as you play around with it, you know, it's pretty neat. And you can earn prizes like you recycled enough to make a metal car, or, you know. I encourage you to play it.
Probably
On a
that's
Friday
what we're
night.
gonna be doing at
All right, so thank you very much. And then we'll share out one more time what you liked about their recycling presentation.
I learned how to be able to shoot off their lines on there.
Yeah, so we incorporated the pen, which is really cool. I like that as well. Anything else?
I feel like a practice round was really good to set them up for success.
Yeah, I like that too. So it can be a little confusing at first.
I like that when we chose, or questioned something, like, it was okay to question it. Well, why do you think that?
Yeah, I like those questions. Why do you think it goes there? Or like if it's anywhere, oh, we can reuse it. Why do you think we can reuse it? I like that too. Then we had the popsicle sticks again. I think we did some fun stuff. Alright, great. So what do you guys think of that? Did it make anyone feel less anxious being able to? Yeah, great. That's what we're shooting for. Less anxiety. I am very glad to hear that. All right, so we're going to jump into the final piece of the day where we're going to just do some more like discussions around different topic areas. So the first one I believe is around scheduling. Yeah. Daily. So you have in your binders, you have a section that's called scheduling. And there are 3 things in there. There is 2 sample central lesson plans and 1 blank lesson plan. And the reason we have 2 is just to illustrate, like, you can set your day up based on your center's needs. There's not one set path you have to follow. Some things are constant, where you do have to teach math every day. You have to teach language arts every day. Science, general, at least 3 times a week. Social studies, usually once, can vary. And then art is usually twice, but it does vary. So what I'd actually like to do is, Nicole, would you mind just talking through your schedule? Because one of them is Nicole's schedule.
Yeah.
So I'll just have her speak to that one. I think it's the second one, actually.
Mine is the second one that says weekly schedule and it doesn't have lines. So a couple things to think about when you're planning your scheduling is that they're going to be mostly first thing in the morning and then kind of right after lunch is going to be when they're the most. So that's when you want to put your core. So my phonics is my biggest section, so that is why I have my phonics first thing after my group meeting. And my math then is going to be directly right after lunch. So I have my morning meeting and my calendar. My room's set up a little differently because I have the smart board, so my calendar is all interactive. It's completely up to you how you decide to do your calendar. If you have one on the wall, that's perfectly fine to do it that way. But I have mine's interactive, so mine's on my smart board, and I have a person who has a job that day, and there's one of them is calendar. So while they're uploading the calendar, everybody else is on the carpet, and they have a minute copy in paper of what they're doing, so they're constantly doing the same thing also. You'll find that they do like to talk and share stories, so I always do every morning. We go around, they get to share one story or something they did the night before, whether it was that morning, but it gets that chattiness out, but it also allows them to learn how to have conversations with other people. In their morning meeting, I tell them about any special events, whether it's a half day, we're taking a field trip that day, no school the next day, things like that. So it's pretty quick, brief, I can get it done in the 20 minutes. Like I said, next part is my phonics. And I have my phonics in there for an hour. I know it's only 50 minutes, but some things might run over, so I give myself that little extra cushion time to, make sure to get it all done. Next we have, in our center, we all have assigned outside times. So one thing that you notice is not in your curriculum is the PE. So that is my recess time. And part of the reason I do that is because when they go into first grade in the public schools or wherever, they're going to already have had that kindergarten physical class, so they're going to have known like team games and group games, or they may have done like soccer, basketball, things like that. A class, so we have a basketball hoop on our playground, and we have soccer nets and things like that. So we do like scrimmage games, or I teach them the basics of shooting a basketball, just things like that. So they're not going into first grade, not knowing how to do anything, group games, the tag, or different versions of things, just things like that. And I actually, out of our outside time, half of it is the PE part of it, and then I give them the other half to do free play, because we have 2-wheel bikes and the climber and things like that. So they're working on other skills outside as well, and most of the time they choose to keep playing that team group game. So in the morning then I knock out all of my language arts. So language arts is done and completed by the time we have lunch. So then I do my reading comprehension, and I move into my language skills. Now if you see on there I don't have writing in there, I will do language skills and writing kind of together, because basically language skills is just introducing vocabulary. So it's really easy to throw that 10 minutes of writing in there. Once in a while, I'll throw my writing in with my phonics also. Once you get into the letter making of your writing, you can have them do those pages when you go over those letters in your phonics. So that's why I don't have a designated time for handwriting in there, because it's really easy to implement in other areas. We do have lunch, and then after lunch I have that half hour. It's quiet time, story time, music. I do introduce musical things, instruments, and things like that. But that also gives me the chance to, if I see somebody that really struggled in the morning, that gives me a break where I can work with that child, say one-on-one, and kind of catch them up, give them extra practice, something like that. It also gives me a chance to get ready for my afternoon.
Like you said, during lunch and story time, you can work with the student. When does your hour break fit into this? Like
What is my what?
Your break that you have
Like,
to take.
I take my break during my lunch. I opted, it used to be I did have an hour, so I would do it during language skills and lunch, because language skills is your easiest class to subject area to give to somebody to go over and do. Because basically if you've gone into your language skills at all, it's, you click on the vocabulary words, it gives you the definition, there's a small little activity or workbook page after. So that's something that you want to plan. Also, is your break, you want to talk with your CD about that. The easiest time for you to take your break is when your kids are at lunch. And then I was fortunate enough that we knocked it down, so I cut a half hour off my day, and then I only take a half hour lunch, so while they're at lunch, I'm at lunch also. So you really want to talk with your CD about when your break's going to be, and that's also going to kind of help you when you plan your schedule. You don't want to be going on break when you're doing phonics or when you're doing math, because then you are not there to judge how they're doing, and you're really then giving a huge core concept to somebody else who's not familiar with the curriculum. So this 12 to 12:30 is also when I work with any student who is in an advanced phonics. That gives me the time that I break away. They're doing something quiet at their tables, I can break away then and work one-on-one with that student who's in advanced phonics, go over what they're doing. After that, then it's math, and once in a while we'll go over the time frame for math. It all depends on how well some of your lessons as you get further in the year, they get really tough and tricky. When you do your addition subtraction, it's all on word problems, so that takes up a lot more time. So sometimes you do kind of go over your time, but I judge that as I go along. I do 5 days of science, but my science lessons are shorter, so this way I can then get them all in. Then afterwards I have Monday through Wednesday social studies, and I do my art Thursday and Friday, and I do those back to back. So, this way the end of the week is always my art, and I try and do it, for routine also, so they know that Thursday and Friday is always we're not going to do social studies, we're always going to do art. And then the last, 15 minutes I have cleaning up the room, giving them, passing out their folders, packing up at the end of the day. And I will do, so that I can get myself set up, then I'll do like high school friend tape and things like that. And as the kids start learning how to read, then they ask, can we read to the class? And that's when I allow them to do, their things at the last 15 minutes of the day. So that is
And something that's not in her schedule that someone had asked about earlier is nap time or quiet time. So the situation is now that we don't want to give the children nap time anymore. So that's a KU directive that I am sharing with all of you. So in case you're wondering about that, there's not nap time is not to be included in the schedule anymore.
We have doors, like it's a very open floor plan. I think this is gonna be pretty structured, but we have to be pretty quiet because there is nap time in pre-K. So what we did this summer was we instilled what's called rest and read, and it's like you have to be quiet, and there was quiet puzzles and quiet books.
So it's like free time, only they're supposed to be
It's,
quiet.
yeah, rest and read, it's like quiet. We do have some parents who want their kids napping because they get dropped off at 7 and they get picked up at 6:30 and their kids are exhausted. But then there's other kids that, I mean, they're 6, they don't need a nap. So it is really hard about what to do. There isn't tons of time to fit it in anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, you can just let them know up front, you know,
Well,
we're
school doesn't have it.
right, so we don't have it
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Are there any specific questions about scheduling that you have? So you have a blank template in there too, and I think it's also on KL Central in soft copy, so you can type in it. And I recommend the color coding; that's pretty helpful for you to use. Okay, great. So we'll move on to the next. Standards and alignments. This is on KL Central, but I'll just pull out one that I have here. Every state has its own alignments document. Let me pull up New Jersey. And the purpose of this document is for each subject area to show how the K-12 lessons match up to your state standards. So just to ensure accountability. This document is not intended to be something you share with parents because it might not make a whole lot of sense to them. But if someone asks, are you teaching, you know, specific standard, you could refer to this document as evidence of that. So it's in Excel, there's multiple pages, but basically it'll show you the standard on the left and the K-12 unit and lesson in which it's found. And there's also a coverage column to say if something's fully covered or not covered. So for math and language arts, mostly everyone except Virginia and Texas, who's not here today, is following Common Core. So these are the Common Core standards in here for math and language arts. And maybe I'll just pull up Virginia too, so we can look at Virginia real quick. So Virginia, I'll just pull up math, plus blue. So you'll see that coverage, it'll say full math plus blue, but in some cases you might see a none, or you might see partial or, here it is. So this is grade level coverage, which is math plus blue, and then coverage course. So this means it's not covered in blue, but it is covered in math plus green, which is something that in your accounts, if you're in Virginia, you'll have access to math plus green, which is the first grade math course. So there's a particular lesson in math plus green that you can teach to meet that objective. There's also one math plus orange in here too, which is the second grade math course. And it tells you what lesson. So you have access to actually math K1 and 2 for Virginia. And if you're curious about what lessons you need to teach in green or orange, which is first or second, this will show you that. It's only a couple, but
will it show where we put them in?
No.
We just kind of throw them in when we need to.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't actually show when. It just shows the what.
Okay.
The what of the lessons. Your blue, though, everything's covered in the same course in blue that everyone else is teaching. So it's really just the math where there's a couple other courses that you'll see in your accounts that nobody else has. Just you guys in Texas. There's one for art. Aren't for most people, all standards are usually covered. Sometimes there's a none like here, and it's usually highlighted in red. So if you're just scanning through, because there's a lot to see, just look for the red. The red means you might have to supplement something. This one says the student will select a preferred work of art and explain why it was chosen. So it's not like you have to do a whole new lesson for that. Just make sure that's the question you ask every once in a while. Oh, what's your favorite piece so far? Okay, why? And there you go.
It would be natural to add to
It's
your
natural
lesson
anyway. Right, you might say that anyway. So just, if you see a lot of red, it's nothing to panic about. A lot of it is things that you're probably doing already anyway. You just don't have one lesson devoted to that one standard. Science, you'll really be using your pacing guide more than the alignment for science, but this is just showing it laid out in a different format. All the standards down the left, and then if it's covered in a module, like Fantastic Forces, Senses and Trees, or it'll say if it's covered online, full online, and the lesson, which is also in your pacing guide, and if there's any nones, which will also be in your pacing guide. So this is just in a different format. Pacing guide's better because it shows you the order it's breaking out in sequentially as opposed to this. And then social studies, you'll see a lot of red here because, as we mentioned before, there's only those 15 K-12 lessons, and that's it. So this is where when you do your supplements, so like if you need to, and you will need to have external resources to teach, to just fill the days, since there's only 15 K-12 lessons, you just want to consider supplementing around the objectives that are not covered in K-12. So if you're looking for supplemental resources, just try to match them up to anything that's not covered here. So for example, Virginia, the student will describe everyday life in the present and in the past and begin to recognize that things change over time. That's not explicitly covered in K-12, but they're on KL Central. Yeah, and we will pull that up. Somebody will come up and walk through that for all of you. Because there's lots of good and important things on KL Central that we want to make sure you can access. So are there questions about the purpose of these documents? It's something that we always put together just to ensure accountability and just so that you have something to rely on to make sure that you're teaching all the standards. So that's the purpose of them. All right. Okay. So now just a few little discussion points. I mean, some of these are big areas we can probably spend an hour talking about, but we only have like 10 or 15 minutes. So, and also some of these points, you'll learn more about them as you actually start teaching the curriculum. So the first point was classroom management, and when I thought about this, I thought about managing small groups and managing technology. So as far as small groups go, a lot of teachers, and Nicole mentioned it already, implement centers, and I'm guessing that most of you do that already anyway. Yeah? Okay. So are there any concerns about having children working in different small groups, or is that? Okay, and it's great, especially with this curriculum, you might find, because it can be intensive, some students might be falling behind in math. So when the rest of your students are working in centers, or maybe they have some quiet playtime, you can pull those students and do some more one-on-one small group remediation with those children. So when students are working in small groups, that's a time where you can have a teacher-directed group for either those who are advanced or those who are falling behind. And then for technology, so one of the things that I did before, remember I put the tape down on the floor to make sure the students sit behind the tape, and like we were all doing with the popsicle sticks to kind of crowd control almost when you're having students come up to the board. Are there any other things you guys can think of related to managing your students when you're using the technology or when you have them going back and forth from the board to their seat?
Well, I mean, I know I have different strategies that I've done before, like especially during transitions and having them walk like a, I don't know, you know what I'm talking about, like walk slowly or tiptoe or
Tiptoe, I like that.
yeah, just stuff like that.
Right, so they're not running each other over as they're going back to their
Right, or
tables.
you can do it in small groups, like have people wearing red go back now.
Oh yeah,
Stuff like
yeah,
that.
like dismissal from the carpet.
Yeah.
I like that too. Any other thoughts? It's also good sometimes to kind of just establish the understanding that not everyone is always going to get to go to the board for every single activity. It's just not going to happen unless you have a really small class. So as long as they know that you're using the popsicle sticks or some other method, and they might not get their turn, but probably later in the day they will, then that's just a good understanding up front. Also, when you're planning your lesson, if a activity is only supposed to take 5 minutes, then you might not want to have students coming up to the board a lot. You know, it's okay to just do it yourself sometimes. You know, get their input, but then just click it yourself. It'll save some time in the long run. So something else to consider. And then, Nicole, did you want to add anything to?
Nothing that I mean, like, if you set your guidelines and your rules for your technology in your classroom, and you keep going over and over and over, the kids learn it, and in all honesty, my kids, by the end of the year, they know my board better than I do. Like, I allow them to use it. I allow them to explore it because they know what they can go into and what they can't go into because it's been established, first day at the beginning of the year. So don't be afraid to let them. There really isn't much that they can mess up on the board that you can't go back and undo, or fix, things like that. So don't be afraid to let them play on the board, write on the board. There's things that they're gonna do as they go through school. They go into first grade, second grade. They all have, our district, they go into first grade and they use their iPad classroom. So they're getting that head start, knowing how to use it.
Yeah, and the more they play, guaranteed they'll figure out how to do something that we had no idea could be done. So it'll also educate you as well. All right. What to do if the internet is down? And this is less like who to call, more like what do you actually do? Because chances are if the internet's, not working at 9 in the morning, there's not someone you can call to immediately fix it. The kids are still here and you still need to do something. So I have my ideas, but what do you think about that? Like, is it possible to teach without the internet? Okay, so what might you do if the internet was down and you had to teach a math lesson?
Well, you know what you're learning about. Right. So if you're learning about shapes, you still have markers, you still have paper, you still have scissors, you would just do what you used to do last year. You know what I mean? You just revert back to the curriculum in your head.
The reason I'm asking this question is because it will happen at least one day for probably all of you, and some people handle it better than others. So I know right now you're all like, what? It's so easy. Who cares if the internet's down? So I'm just getting it out there now because it will probably happen, and it's good to just be relaxed about it and know you can still teach. So like you said, you've planned, you've prepped, you know what the objectives are. You can still, the board will still turn on without the internet, You can still utilize the board for drawing shapes and whatnot, or paper or scissors. You still have a student activity book. Like for science in particular, you still have this book, the flip book, so everything's in there, and the kits. Literature and comprehension is completely offline anyway, as is handwriting, so you don't need the internet for any of those. So we feel okay about that? Okay. Hopefully it's not something that happens a lot, but it'll probably happen at least once.
A lot of times on our board, it goes black, like when we first turn on, and then it says no signal. So I found a little button in the back that I would push. I don't know if I should be, but when I push it, it seems to work again.
Oh, that sounds like a.
Is that okay?
Maybe you don't know about amber, so maybe it's amber.
Maybe it's.
Maybe it just fell asleep, and if you just like touch the screen or push a button on the keyboard.
I heard
No.
you stop button before,
Yeah, you
they
did.
said I could.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it sounds like that's probably what you're supposed to push in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's the computer on switch. So when you're pushing that, it's turning the computer part of that system.
Okay, like behind it.
That part I remember.
Okay, so that's what you want to do.
Got training on it.
So I was like, you're showing me how to use this, right?
And we'll have people come up, or everybody come up at the end and show you like that switch. I know it's like right behind the board, so it's basically the power switch.
Oh.
Yeah, good question. And then what a K-12 classroom looks like, so I guess Caitlin's not here, but It should still be compatible with Knowledge Universe's classroom guidelines. It's a document, I don't know what it's called, but does it sound familiar to everyone?
Sustaining
The SQ3.
Okay, yes, probably.
Sustaining the quality.
Probably that. So it should still be in compliance with all of those guidelines. And just some other things to think about. You can have some subject-specific centers set up around your classroom. So for example, you can have a corner of the room be the science corner, and you can maybe have the flip book there, and some magnifying glasses, and some leaf samples, and some paper so they can record drawings or write sentences. You know, that could be your science station. You can even set up handwriting as a station with a line. That wouldn't be
For you.
Yeah. You know, with the lined paper, they could practice there. A phonics station where you have the tiles set up for students to play with, and their sight word cards, and their readers. That can be a station. So those can be things that you permanently have set up in your classroom.
And we're keeping kitchen blocks, home living in blocks.
Do you have that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Which they're really only using drop-off time and after 3-ish. Okay. We would probably leave it closed, which would be very distracting.
Yeah.
Learning center signs?
No, I'm talking about the area specifically. We're gonna keep the kitchen area available, but not till afternoon. We sort of close during curriculum time.
Kitchen area.
Within the dramatic play and the block area, those are not during the curriculum, so that's something they could use at drop-off time before school starts, and then they're able to use it again.
You could use your block area as a map.
True, it could be open as part
Or
of it,
I was
but.
thinking like the thing we saw about like sorting clothing, like that could be dramatic play.
I feel like if
So
we're
we
doing,
can incorporate
if we're rotating centers, it can't be open, because nobody's gonna wanna sit at their table if that area is open. So I'm just trying to get a feel of, we still would use them, they're just more in the afternoon, they're not during common core times.
That sound okay.
If you could correlate it to a
As far as
subject.
I know changes between the learning centers.
Okay, okay.
The other thing that you want to do, make sure that your classroom is rich, because your kids are learning to read. And you also want to bring down walls, so you definitely want to have a lot of, structure. The best thing for that is when you do your sight words, put the word right underneath. A lot of that goes with, you want a number line. It's going to be really helpful not only for learning to count, but when you have to actually, they learn how to do addition and subtraction on number line. So if you have a big number line there, it's easy for them to go all around. My word wall, I don't have a lot of wall space due to my board. So I have a trifold board, and my middle is like my biggest section where I put my keywords, and then I'll have like, science words on one side and my learning skills, my language skills on the other side. And they can, it's all Velcro, so they can take them off and, they can practice reading them, putting them back on. So it's all, it's really privileged so that they're strong out, they're not missing others to help them learn to read.
Yeah, so word-rich environment, really important, like you said. And then current bulletin boards, which I'm sure you already have anyway, but some rooms are bigger than others, but some teachers are able to have a bulletin board for each subject area even, which is nice. And then just pay attention to where your students are sitting and making sure they have sight lines to the board, to the technology display. So everyone, even when they're seated, should have pretty clear vision to the board. These last couple points, so FAQ document, in your binders, there should be a who to contact sheet at the very back. And Kelly, did you want to speak to that?
So basically, if you have any questions regarding your software, thank you. So the technical issues, you can contact the IT service desk at IT@work.com, and they'll be able to help you with anything related to your touch screen, your connectivity, your plan,
Great, thank you. And then the last piece was really just a mention, and I think Caitlin actually mentioned it before, so you're still using the same report cards. And the Terra Nova, I believe, is still going to be utilized, so that those pieces won't be changing. And would someone from KU be able to pull up KL Central so we can do a walkthrough of that? Yeah. Just so they know where some of these key documents are that we've been talking about. And this is something you need to go through with your center directors because teachers don't have their own access to it.
some didn't, and at the time I didn't know I was gonna have a board. A big issue at our center with parents is pre-K, got into curriculum, and they have a lot of Spanish. And I think they're going to ask us, why are you guys not continuing Spanish? And it is because it's a whole new curriculum separate from the pre-K, but, so it's not, I mean, I don't make the curriculum, so that's just what I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is Spanish, K-12 does have Spanish, it's just not yet something that's being used in the centers. So.
And there's no better answer.
Yeah.
I know what you have currently, which is, because the Ready Kindergarten program is separate of Early Foundations. As you know, Early Foundations is proprietary to you. We've developed that to be a continuum from infancy all the way through pre-K. And kindergarten is different, and we are aligning ourselves to Common Core, utilizing this curriculum, and are using Common Core as our guide for what our requirements are for first grade preparation.
Okay.
So the requirement set from our perspective is different.
Okay.
So maybe you can leverage that Common Core piece to maybe be helpful in that.
Yeah.
That really what we're prioritizing in this so that we feel like your children are first grade ready are those pieces that they are going to be helping on for against Common Core.
Yes.
Spanish is not a component of that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
It's a great reminder though, and probably something that we want to be able to provide you guys some speaking points to from a marketing perspective, right?
All right, so I'm actually going to turn things over to Michael for the last little chunk of the day. Do you need a can?
Start with a fresh screen.
Did you want me to close the
That's one of our questions is going to be turning money in some so
Oh, okay.
like log out and log back in again.
Okay.
Just something to.
I didn't make that a question. Did you make that a question?
I would remind you. I just think they have to
So-
Because I'm going to want them to log in with my account though.
Let me log in.
Every other
Restart. That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Alright. So, says everybody's name. Okay, and then the bucket.
Do you need an empty bucket or you're good with that bucket?
This one's fine.
All right, I will move it.
Oh, alright. Okay, so to wrap up today, we want to ask you to show us what you've learned. This is going to be an activity similar to one that you've already done a couple times today. We've got a bucket with some prompts in it that are numbered, and we're just going to ask everybody to come up and, well, I guess we can just go in and read out loud what's on your little piece of paper. There's a number on there too, so make sure to read that as well. And then, so we'd like you to try to do whatever it is that's on here on your own first. If you need help, just say help, and anyone from the class is welcome to jump in and offer to help. If nobody knows, yeah. If nobody knows, Jill will be happy to step in. Okay? But we want you to be able to do this regardless of whether or not you need help. That's not the important thing. We just want to make sure before you leave today that you all feel ready. Okay? So.
Do you want me to? So you want to like sit down?
Yeah. And I'll let you.
I'll be the stick picker.
Okay.
And it's 2 for everybody, right, Michael?
There's enough for everybody to come up to us.
Okay. Alicia gets to go first.
Just make sure to read out the number and whatever's on there.
Okay, so I got number 17. Turn on the computer.
Oh, well.
So, okay, so I'll explain. This one was in the beginning, but basically, on the back of each of your touch screens.
Let's show it.
Yeah.
Well, if you know where the power button is, press the black button.
Hold on.
She knows where the button is.
On the black box, at least.
So basically, hold on, 1 second. It's on this side.
Is it locked?
They're probably locked. Let's remember to relock first.
So,
Don't put it in a hole.
Yeah.
this is your PC or your computer. It's an actual little tiny computer that's on the back of your touch screen. And basically, it could be facing the other way depending on how the technician installed it. There's this little button. You press it on, little green lights will be flashing. You'll know that it's on. Ta-da! Then, after you do that, you're going to want to.
She knew where it was though. She did point to
I
it.
did.
I
I
saw
saw
it.
You want to show them the thing at the beginning of it.
Then you're gonna turn it on here. And then also,
Did you see what she just pointed at? Yeah. There's a button underneath.
and then on the other side, I don't know if we can turn this one necessarily. So, okay. This one's a little bit more tricky. There's an actual main, it says actually it's written on the touchscreen main power. You want to make sure that's turned on too. So
it's where the power cord goes in. Right next to
yeah,
where the
it's
power
right
cord
next to
goes.
it. So if you just turn on the front of it and the computer, you're not going to see anything on the screen. This one has to be on too. So
At night, should we shut off the whole thing, or?
So I actually wasn't instructed by IT on that. I can ask them for right now.
You want power surge, not
I would, sorry?
Because it like a power surge, you don't want that. Not
Exactly. So for right now, actually we did a power, so they should be plugged into a power protector.
What do you do with your, what does this do with your laptops at night? Shut them down or leave them on?
Leave them on for refreshes.
They just
usually.
That sounds like it varies.
Usually leave them on for a refresh if you ever update software at night.
Never
Yeah.
press that big button on the
We'll get a recommendation.
Yeah, we'll get a recommendation. For now, just control Alt Delete and at least log out of your touch screens every day. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. Let's try it out this. Got the hardest question.
But she knew it. She knew it.
She did.
Okay.
All right. Lauren.
I swear.
Well, it's gonna be everybody eventually, so.
You just said it was everything. Number 18. Shut down everything. Do you want me to pick a new one? Huh?
Maybe not yet.
Yeah, you want me to pick another one?
You can just put that one down there.
Number 13. Log into K-12 using the on-screen slide-out keyboard.
Okay, the slide out keyboard.
I mean, I don't know. Is it over here? Or do I have to log in first?
Just click on it.
You should click
Yeah,
username.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
right
look at the
there.
Just kidding.
It's, you can always just kinda like
But
swipe
that-
it.
It's a little
That's not
tab
the
to the
key.
left.
Oh, there it is.
Pick the wrong person.
You probably just typed something wrong on the bottom. Yeah. Good job. And I think for most of you, you'll be able, your browser will save your password, so like you don't have to type that in every single time that you go to the website. Okay. Karen.
Seven, change the unit status of language skills unit 8 to put this unit back on the plan.
I'm just logging into my account because mine is set up, where she will need to do that.
So, I'm gonna go into the students. And our language skills. Did you already put it in Unit 8?
So this is what it looks like if you have things marked off.
So
like
she's
when you
already
get-
done- you've
yeah,
done
so,
1
So
through
I've
7.
already marked it off intentionally because I knew that was a question.
Can you repeat it, Karen?
Change the unit status of language skills, Unit 8, to put this unit back on the plan. Basically, it means
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
checked off, and I want to uncheck it. So I'm going to modify the expected settings, is what I would go into. And I'm wrong.
You can hit cancel. Please swipe. I wonder what that's doing.
Sending it to you.
That shouldn't really do anything.
Surprise.
I know. Wow, something new.
New trick.
Something unhelpful. I don't know
It's
why.
my lunch break.
She's like the weather girl. You know how the weather girl does that?
I'm like, get out of here, I gotta figure this out.
Turn off the internet, what do we do?
Right?
Expected settings is just for if you're changing, you don't ever need to use it. You know, it's for
I
this.
think you have to log into one of them first.
That's what I was starting to think, but there's so many of them.
The
Unit
one
list.
you're changing.
Click on unit list.
Okay,
That's all one unit.
put them on.
Yeah, so click on 8, whatever unit.
Was I was already in
Change
8.
unit
No, you weren't in
status.
Oh, okay.
Change unit.
Oh,
There
okay.
you are, right where you were looking before, up to the right.
So 8 wasn't completed.
It wasn't.
Yeah, you weren't in the lessons yet. So
Oh.
now you can go into it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go into lesson 8. Wait, was I supposed to do that? Change unit status first?
You want unit 8, not lesson 8. You're in unit 1.
You got this.
Alright. Oh, you're unit 4.
You saw me at first aid.
You did, it looked like you pushed me.
I know the difference. Okay, so now I see. So I'm going to change unit status now. Put this back on plan, save, and all those lessons will go back on.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the circles will change to open.
And I could have gone into this.
No, that's really the only way to do it. What you did.
Can you just put one lesson back on the plan?
Yeah, you could have.
So I would log into that
So if you
and just
clicked on
change-
the circle, you could have just put one lesson back instead of the whole unit.
Okay.
That was good.
Thanks.
That's a hard one.
That was a hard
That
one.
was.
That's probably the hardest.
Everybody else had like puppers up there.
All right. Dale.
Number 10, unlock an adaptive activity in math, unit 1, lesson 9.
That one's hard too.
Okay.
What'd you say? Yeah, you would be good.
Yeah.
I put it by accident.
Oh, the adaptive.
Because they're all open.
That's just my basic flow right there.
Does she have to unlock it, or can she just go
Blue.
here?
Oh, so it's this.
Can you read the question?
It's math plus blue?
Yeah.
So that's this one, right?
Yeah, the one that says math plus blue.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was looking for the plus sign.
But if she goes into curriculum, she doesn't have to unlock it, right?
Right, that's where she is already.
Unit 1.
But it says unlock it. So it's good.
Unlock, so I'm in the wrong area?
No. No, you're doing good.
Who the heck would go the other way?
9.
Put all the wrong answers in.
Oh, okay. Up,
Right?
up.
Technically, but
Nobody
the question is technically.
But yeah, I know that.
I don't know.
Jimmy's cheat.
No, you're good. So you did totally the right thing by going through curriculum.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, and so now, do you know how to tell which lessons are adaptive?
These button ones.
Or which activities within the lesson are adaptive? Do you remember that part?
Well, is it?
Yeah.
This tell
So that's an adaptive lesson.
Okay.
How could you tell which activities within the lesson are
within
adaptive?
the I did.
What a lesson
Navigation.
Lesson navigation.
Navigation.
Ah, okay.
Thanks, guys.
Adaptive.
Yeah.
Oh, so
they're
here's-
underneath. Yeah, the ones underneath that.
So these ones are.
Mhm. And they're all unlocked because you went.
Went through the curriculum.
Yes, through curriculum.
Okay.
Good job.
Am I good? Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
And that's a good one because you're going to be doing that, multiple times, accessing those lessons. Jennifer.
I'm glad that you told us like the cheat way to get there. Because wouldn't it be terrible if they even answer them all wrong?
Yeah. It would be.
Really get a half an hour.
Because you can do that in advance, but still.
Okay, so number 3 is locate the advanced preparation required for part 1. It's a mystery of lesson 1.
Yeah, that's actually senses and trees. I didn't put that in there, and that's like essential to the question. So that's
That's
the
the
subject
mystery
area.
part?
Yeah, well, that's the mystery part. I know, I didn't put enough information there. So you have to go
Locate the advanced preparation required.
in senses and trees
In senses and
Yeah.
trees. Okay.
for that lesson.
Oh, man.
That's fun.
Senses and trees. And then, I don't know. Advanced prep.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery, and there's the advanced prep. Mystery solved.
Got it now.
Well
Can I
done.
do my second one right now?
Any objections?
I don't think we're gonna have time for
Okay, objections. So someone else will get a turn.
I decided not to.
Yeah, you can be the first to do 2 if we have time. Michelle. Picking them all.
Oh geez. 11. Open the gallery in art. Unit 1, lesson 5.
So we didn't really talk about the gallery. picture and the picture.
Oh.
So it's not just like a little. That was good, see, because we didn't really even talk about the gallery. That was in the pre-work, but we didn't really talk about it today, so.
Didn't even do the pre-work.
Well, then, Caitlin.
Number 2, locate the materials needed for Science K Unit 9, Lesson 2.
So can I stop you for 1 second? I just want to say this
Yes.
for everybody. So the easiest way, like unless you want to do math adaptive, instead of going back up here, just go back to overview. And then your whole list of courses will be there.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Two.
We'll call James.
Lesson 2. Is that it?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good job. Good, thank you. All right, Francis. Get ready.
Okay. 15. Calibrate the touch screen.
Oh, that's
Do
not
it.
Let's see it.
Gotta do it.
Just say help.
No, well, we'll have,
We'll work it out together.
That's a help, okay.
because everybody needs to know how to do it.
Okay.
And this is a board question, not really an OLS question. So does anyone know how to calibrate the board?
I did. I've done it before. I can help.
Okay.
I don't know. My one was different. I went down here. I don't know what I pressed.
Just touch all the buttons until it
No,
works.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like you're going for it.
This one?
No.
No? Oh man. This one? Oh, there it is. Okay.
So, maybe we can do that again and stand beside her.
Sorry.
So,
So,
the TV itself
let's see if I can remember.
has a menu built into it in your Windows taskbar on the bottom.
There's a little triangle there. So she clicks on it. It's next to the speaker. So she'll click on the triangle.
What did I just
No, you're right. You're in the right spot.
What did I hit last time?
So it's the one on the bottom right, and it's hard to see. It's like a little gray square that I think is supposed to be a board, but it's super small.
And then you go to calibration. And I'm pretty sure.
Can you show us the advanced? Did you try the advanced?
Yeah, I did.
On the
I
top.
did dot by dot. Is that the one you wanted me to do or not?
Up at the top, there's two
Oh, there's
options. One that says, that's advanced.
And you had boom.
Yeah, this is the one I did.
Why are we doing this? Why would we need to do this?
So that you're hitting where your finger's going.
Oh,
Because if
I
it gets uncalibrated, you'll hit somewhere and it'll go somewhere
That's
else.
right, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So it'll register your finger touch as like actually hitting here. So you might be hitting here on the board, but it might be registering your touch up here.
Do you need to do this
So-
often or just
It's
when you
just when you
notice
start
problems?
noticing that it's like not pointing to
Okay.
where you're pointing.
I don't think it would.
Do you do this when you first started out? Like,
No, you don't even have to do it every time. It's just when you start noticing like your pen or your fingers down the left hand and it's like in the right or somewhere else on the screen, then you're like, oh, I need to recalibrate. Yeah, and in this exercise, you're gonna take the pen or your finger and touch the red plus sign, and then it will go to that.
You just let go. Yeah, and then the bottom one on the left lit up red. So you just like tap the center of it. Yeah.
and you just have to keep walking around.
Yes. Four corners.
Good job, and then it'll
And then you can hit yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good job. Yeah. Another hard one. All right, Rebecca. I wonder who's going to be after who.
Number 16, write something on a K-12 lesson with the touch pen.
Oh, okay. This one's hard too.
No, like she's like the master
Oh, you
of
already
that
did
pen.
it. Well, you already did
You already
this.
did it today.
No, don't do it. You can do it, but I know you can do it.
Try not just use the pen on a lesson.
Isn't it just?
Look, her writing's still
You're
there.
still
there. What do we have to do to erase it?
I have to erase it now.
And what? Just explain what you did real quick, just for everyone.
How'd you get there?
I clicked on the button that we discovered this morning. I don't know what's the.
So that you can click it. Well, first you have to exit out of that actually, and then click the other one.
Yeah, 'cause
So the one that she clicked on is the overlay. Like if you're up here, it basically looks like two squares offset, like one on top of the other. And this other one pulls up the full sheet.
Oh.
Like what I was doing with the dragging when you guys were coming up here writing answers, that pulls up a full sheet.
That'll automatically open for us
Well,
when we start up our system.
no, I think you have to click on it.
Where's that at? How do you
So
find that?
Can you drag it?
it should be.
No, it's not there online.
Here, this.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
was
it
saying,
should be.
so
No, it wasn't. It was in the programs.
Oh, all programs. And then what did you just drag it to the
Drag it
bar?
down.
That's what you did yesterday, right, Jeremy? You just dragged it?
Yeah, probably by default, you see on your boards it got quivered that the overlay mode is what the shortcut is on that taskbar. And so, if you want to get that feature added to your taskbar, you've got to navigate to it and then drag it and drop it. Just like in Windows, when you click with your mouse, you drag and drop something. Only here you're doing it with your finger or the pen. And the way you can navigate to it is you hit the start button, just like on Windows. You go to all programs. And then within all programs, you'll see pen software. And there's three options within pen software.
Yeah.
So the,
I don't think it's not.
no, go ahead.
Basically, the bottom two are the two that are down here.
Yep,
So, when
so-
you look in all three, the bottom two are those
It's
two.
called Sharp Pen Software.
And we'll include this in FAQs we talked about earlier, so we'll actually just grab some screen captures so that you can see this a little bit larger size, and we can take it step by step. So we'll break out those steps for you, put screenshots in there, and that'll just be part of your onboarding FAQ guide.
That's like important stuff.
So the last official activity.
Oh, there's one more person to go.
Oh,
James.
Turn that bad boy off, James.
What?
Turn it off. Done.
14, change resolution on a smart board to 1920 by 1280.
So that's down by where, I'm pretty sure that's down by where the calibration is.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing, it's the same button. It's not one
Yeah.
of those choices where it's just.
So hit that little
it's the
purple
blank,
one.
right, yeah, the triangle, and then the top.
Change it to 19.
Oh, looks like you have to click on it again.
That's what it was.
It should be opening. Well, it's not opening it for some reason, but he's in the right spot.
Maybe they too high.
We just calibrated it. That's not the problem.
Yeah, you definitely hit it there.
If you minimize the browser, is that how you look at that? Okay, just kidding.
It should come right on top.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. It's an easier way to do it. Can I show you guys?
But for the resolution?
She's got it. Yep.
So, sorry. So if you just hold your finger down, it's like it's right clicking and releasing, and then you're gonna do screen, like, okay, screen resolution. And then you can change it. 220 by 12. So it's at the highest resolution right now. You can type.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. It's
You gave me the
impossible.
impossible.
It's impossible.
We can do that, so.
Yeah, I think it's important to call out that by default, the resolution's really low.
Yeah.
So you probably noticed that if you've been playing with smart boards in your classrooms, that if you you've already turned them on and looked, you're like, wow, this one looks different, right? And that's because we adjusted resolution, I think yesterday. And that's how you get to that feature.
If yours
So
is
you
at
want
a
your
low
board
end, you can
to
choose.
be at a higher resolution, that's how you do it.
So on
Personally, that's how I like it.
Yeah, 1920 by 1080 is just the very top one.
Tricky me.
I didn't write that one.
That'll be next.